Hey guys, it's Ty from gamesfromthefront.com, and as you can probably tell from the layout on my table here, I'd like to talk a little bit about the Heroes of Normandy product from the Lock and Load tactical system from Lock and Load Publishing. There's a couple of reasons that I wanted to do this review now. First of all, I've got about 10 plays under my belt, largely face-to-face or virtually face-to-face over Vassal, and it's probably got enough experience to probably give you an informed review. And then second, as of this recording, we're probably a couple of weeks from an onslaught of product releases from Lock and Load Publishing. They're redoing or republishing their entire line of Lock and Load Tactical. They've got a couple new products in that line, and then some of their other product lines, like was it Nations at War, are going to be released soon. So as folks are considering making purchases, I thought they'd like to perhaps hear a review from someone who's got a little bit of experience under their belt. The Lock and Load tactical system is, as the name suggests, is a tactical level war game. So we're dealing with squad level combat. And the Heroes of Normandy product itself, as you can imagine, has a number of scenarios focusing on the D-Day period from World War II. So anything from the airdrops from the 506th Airborne and the 82nd Airborne is represented along with some opponents in the form of German infantry and SS. Interestingly, the new ownership at Lock and Load Tactical Publishing has combined some of the pre-existing expansions for Lock and Load Tactical into this box. So in addition to D-Day, you'll also find some scenarios represented from things like Battle of the Bulge and Operation Market Garden. So it's a pretty robust package. And leading with the headline, I can say that it's a game that I can recommend for purchase. If you're looking for a tactical system, I think it's very, very much worth your hard-earned wargaming dollar. I used to be a fan, frankly, of the Conflict of Heroes system, which I would kind of equate about the same level of complexity as Lock and Load Tactical, but really got kind of impatient with Academy games and their level of commitment to the Conflict of Heroes system. So started looking elsewhere and fell upon Lock and Load Tactical and was able to give this a go. In the box, you'll find a number of probably expected items like a core rule book. The Lock and Load Tactical system, as the name implies, is a system. So each box will have this core rulebook, which has been redone by the new publisher to make it a little bit more streamlined, a little bit more coherent. But of course, as a system, the more games you buy, the more copies of this rulebook that you'll end up. Heroes of Normandy also comes with a module and scenario rulebook or scenario book, and in it are 31 scenarios. Again, covering those operations I mentioned earlier, and also it has the module-specific rules. So the rules for air landings, for the British Airborne, for instance, some of the specific rules for the German units like the SS. Each unit type seems to have some sort of special capability that applies to the scenarios that you'll play. I have to say that the rule books themselves, from a quality perspective, seem to be really well done, well laid out. They're colorful, they're logical. The rule book itself probably takes up a little bit more room than it needs to be, but perhaps you're someone who likes rather large print, and you'll find that in this rule book. Also in this rule book, also in this product, you'll find 6 counter sheets. I've already punched mine out and I've got them stored in this plano tray. The box as I have it is too small to fit the counters back in the box, but the The coming reprint of this module itself, or this product itself, along with all the products in the Lock and Load Tactical line, will have 3-inch boxes, which I've seen some early pictures of, and will be quite large, and I expect anybody who makes a new purchase will have plenty of room to store their components. The box also has, I think it's 6 maps. This is the a standard size map. It's not quite 8.5 by 11, but this is the standard map that comes in the box, or standard size of map. Probably can only get 1 stack of counters in each hex. And then there are a number of player aids that come in the box that are for use with the different scenarios, and I'll talk about those a little bit later. And then these days there are a couple of other products that can kind of go along with the system. Lock and Load Publishing puts out what they call X maps, which are the exact same maps as the ones that are in the box, but are, as you can imagine, a little bit larger. And then also you can purchase separately a Heroes of Normandy battle generator, which is a system for generating your own homebrewed and or random scenarios. So a lot of product in the box. I think the last time I checked, I think this retails for about $80. I'll have to double check on that price. You know, with the reprint coming, if you act quickly, you can get that for a little bit of a discount, but the box is chock full of items. All right, I've kind of generically set up some of the components, the counters, and one of the maps, just to kind of give you a sense of how things get set up in this game. I'm not really doing too much of a gameplay review or a gameplay detail. I'm not going to tell you how to play the game necessarily, but I did want to call out some of the things that I like about the system. Certainly at this level, and as the name suggests, is it a tactical level game, and if that's what you're in the market for, you're certainly going to find that type of experience here with Heroes of Normandy. What I mean by that is you'll have some of the kind of the map level detail that you would expect in a tactical game, individual houses and roads and a lot of terrain variety. It's kind of nice to see that level of detail represented here in this game. Also, you'll find a lot of variety in the unit types. And so on this map here, I've got some infantry units. There's a leader over here. I've got an armor unit spaced out, and a mortar unit also placed out. So you'll find that kind of variety in the game, and if you're looking for that level of detail, you'll find it here. Some of the other things that you might expect in a tactical level war game, like indirect fire. You know, things like artillery are usually found from off board and are a little bit abstracted. In some of the other games in the series, you might find aircraft. Aircraft are represented in Heroes of Normandy a little bit, but perhaps not in the same way it is in other games, but you will find it in some form in Heroes of Normandy. So it's a really nice flavor, a nice tactical game. It also feels like a tactical game, and what I mean by that is there's a lot of back and forth between you and your opponent. The game is structured on impulses, and so you'll conduct an impulse for your side. You will be moving and or firing in most cases, and then your opponent will take a turn in an impulse and do something similar. And so there's a lot of back and forth. It feels quite a bit more like a chess match at the tactical level than it does perhaps some of the other games I've played that are more operational in nature, and where perhaps your entire side will go at one time. So that plays out this way with Heroes of Normandy. The game is also pretty fast playing, or quick playing. You know, if you have an experienced set of players, I wouldn't be surprised that even if some of the larger scenarios could get played in a single setting. You do have to be a little bit focused to pull that off. You have to perhaps be pretty confident with the rule set But one of the things I've liked in the 10 or so times that I've played is that I do feel like it's not something that's dragging on and on and on and on. You're making progress, you feel like it's playing quickly, and you're having a lot of fun at the same time. The game is also robust and not overwhelming. And what I mean by that is, I mentioned the variety of unit types, but there's also a variety in the types of combat that you can execute. So there'll be direct fire between units, whether they're armored or they're infantry. There's indirect fire with mortar units and artillery. And there's also just kind of general armor combat. So armor units are well represented in Heroes of Normandy. There's a lot of different armor types, and they've got their own system for using them, which is nice. Just for comparison, if you're looking at a tactical system, Lock and Load Tactical is about the same level of complexity as Conflict of Heroes, as I mentioned earlier. But also, from what I understand, although I haven't played it, the Band of Brothers series, you'll find the same level of complexity. This is probably a step, if not multiple steps down from Advanced Squad Leader and the Advanced Tobruk system. So consider the level of complexity that you're looking at or looking for when considering making a purchase. There are other pluses I'd like to call out for Lock and Load Tactical. These certainly apply to the Heroes of Normandy game that I've got on the table, but I also think more broadly, you can think of the system as a whole. First of all, Lock and Load Tactical has a very deep product line, and like I mentioned earlier, many of those are about to be reprinted and released to the public. So while we have Heroes of Normandy here on the table, you'll find other games in the line for World War II, whether it's East Front with Heroes of the Motherland. There's a North Africa game, Heroes of North Africa, that's new in the line that will be coming out soon. Heroes of Defiance, I think it is, deals with the Case Yellow and the invasion of France. So there's a number of World War II games in the line. And even on top of that, there's also a line of more modern combat covering Vietnam, the Falkland Islands, and hypothetical World War III, Soviets versus the US. So, as I was mentioning earlier, one of my frustrations with Conflict of Heroes is that they didn't seem to be too committed to the game line, and there really wasn't a lot of new product being released. But with Lock and Load Tactical, you can kind of pick and choose or dive right in and have a lot of variety at your fingertips. The other thing I'd call out is that the Lock and Load Publishing ownership is outstanding. David Heath in particular has done a great job riding the ship with Lock and Load Tactical and Lock and Load Publishing overall. As I suggested earlier, he's brought a lot of coherence and clarity to the system, updating contents, updating rule books, kind of rejiggering a lot of the different items within the product line. And on top of that, he's actually been very, very responsive to the fan base in terms of answering questions, solving problems. It really seems like it's an ownership collective that really cares about making this line succeed and really cares about their customers. The personal touch, just a quick story. I've actually had calls from David when I had a misprinted item. I can't recall that I've heard too many stories of publishers ever directly calling customers to solve problems. So that feels really good that level of support is there. The other thing I'll call out is that it appears that Lock and Load Publishing is going to be very committed to the Vassal platform. They've updated a number of their Vassal modules already for the Lock and Load Tactical line, and I think they have a few more that they're going to be releasing soon. And so if you're someone who plays mainly online, you're going to find robust support for Vassal, which is always a plus and is largely how I've played my game so far. And then one thing I'll mention, solo play appears to be a more and more important feature of war games these days than perhaps in the past. I do think that the industry gives a little bit too much leeway for defining what makes a good solo game. I think it does seem that we are a little bit too accepting of being able to play a two-handed game by one player as something that qualifies for being quote-unquote solo compatible. But Heroes of Normandy is, in this line of reprints, is going to be releasing its own solo module or solo product that will be usable for Heroes of Normandy and all the other products in the Lock and Load Tactical line. So if you're looking for someone who is looking for a dedicated solo platform, you'll soon have that available for this game and the other games in the tactical line. For as much as I've enjoyed this system and this particular game so far, that isn't to say it isn't without some challenges or minuses or deficiencies or however you want to call it. None of them are so bad that they detract from my recommendation that you should consider this game for your tactical war game purchases. But they are something that you should be aware of as you're making your gaming decision, your purchase decision. You know, for a game that's supposed to be relatively straightforward and perhaps a little bit more on the, I don't say simplistic, but it's, you know, it's not, this is not Advanced Squad Leader, and it doesn't intend to be. But for as easy as it's supposed to be, Lock and Load Tactical is probably harder than it needs to be. And there's probably a couple reasons for that, or primary reasons for that. I would say that the game lacks a kind of a core gameplay mechanic, core gameplay mechanic is how I would phrase it. And what I mean by that is, you know, there's just a little bit of inconsistency or difference from rule to rule, mechanic to mechanic. There are some attack mechanics where you want to roll high. There are some where you want to roll low as far as success goes. There are some where you roll 2 dice, and there are some where you roll 1 dice or 1 die. And so it makes it a little bit harder to remember what you need to do and when you need to do it. I think a little bit more, I guess at least from my own gameplay experience, I'm used to having kind of one core mechanic applied to multiple situations. So, you know, the assault rules in a game may not be all that different from the direct fire here, direct fire rules. In the case of Lock and Load Tactical, they are quite a bit different, and I think makes it a little bit more difficult to learn and even remember. I mean, I played a number of games with experienced war gamers who perhaps are new to the system, and even though we would generally consider ourselves to be experienced war gamers, we forget rules probably more than we should for the level of complexity of this game. The other thing that makes this game harder to learn, I think, is that, you know, they've done a really good job of including a number of play aids in the box, but you know, in a sense, maybe they're taking a more is better approach. But I found that the play aids are inconsistent in formatting, inconsistent in content. It doesn't seem that any single play aid has all the information that you need. And there are a lot of them. I think in this particular case, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 play aids that are in the Heroes of Normandy box. There's another one that comes with the X maps. It's hard to, you know, how many different ways do we need to put out the way that you conduct direct fire, so to speak. So I've gone ahead and started to make my own play aid, and we'll see if that helps me in the long run. The other thing I'll call out as far as things I've noticed that might be a little bit of a miss is really kind of a lack of counter variety. And what I mean by that is it's not so much within the game itself, Heroes of Normandy, but across the different games in the series. You'll find counters are used multiple times. And so, for instance, if you were to get the East Front game, Heroes of the Motherland, you might find the same leader counter, or you might find the same infantry counter. And, I can understand that maybe perhaps in a straightforward game like this, you might use the same statistics, but it would have been nice if they had invested in some different artwork to make them stand out from system to system, or from title to title. And probably just a little bit more disappointing than a fatal flaw or anything like that, but just something that I've noticed. One of the other things I'll call out, and you can file this under the making the game harder to learn than it needs to be category, is what I'll simply call a counter inconsistency. Now, I've got 4 German military counters out. I've got a leader, I've got a hero, I've got a half squad, and a full squad. And in the case of the leader, this is a single man counter in game terms, but you've got a portrait with a name. But this hero also has a name and is a single man counter, but it's got a full character image. But this one with a full character image and no name is a half squad, but is treated as a multi-man counter. And this is a full squad that's also a multi-man counter with 2 images, two full characters on it. So, why this single man counter has a portrait and this one doesn't, and why these 2 have the same number of characters represented, but these 2 are multi-man, and this multi-man character only has 1 image on it. As you can tell from even me trying to describe it, it gets a little bit confusing. So, they could have taken the time to perhaps make this hero a portrait, make this multi-man counter have multiple characters on it, and this one could have even had, let's say, 3 characters on it. Basically, they could have taken the time as they were reprinting these to straighten out that, and kind of wish they had done so. One of the other things I'll point out you won't necessarily find in the Heroes of Normandy box, and that's around the idea of the lock and load tactical community. After playing online and virtually face-to-face over Vassal and looking for live face-to-face games, it does appear to me that the lock and load tactical community is pretty thin. Either they're very much hidden, or they are a lot less vocal and visible than perhaps the Conflict of Heroes community that I used to be part of. Certainly less so than ASL. So as I consider how much more product I'm going to buy in this line, I really kind of have to question, how much does it make sense to buy more lock and load tactical games? Am I going to find the player base that I need to make those purchases worthwhile? You won't find a lot of after action reports online. You won't find a lot of tournaments that are being run either face-to-face or online. I haven't found lock and load tactical being played at a lot of conventions, and there doesn't seem to be an active local community here in the Chicago area. So it doesn't take away from the quality of the game, and doesn't take away from the fact that I recommend it for purchase for a tactical system. But for all the games that it has, how many does it really make sense to own at the end of the day? These other 2 items, the battle generator and the X-map, I got with my purchase of Heroes of Normandy as a kind of a free add-on. Nowadays, these are separate purchases for this product. And I haven't really spent too much time with the battle generator. I kind of really wonder if this is even a necessary product, or how much mileage someone would get out of owning the battle generator. As I mentioned earlier, the scenario book that comes with Heroes of Normandy already has 31 scenarios in it, which is quite a lot of gameplay. And so, I don't know, perhaps if you had another scenario in mind that you wanted to self-publish and you're looking for game balance, it might be useful. Or if you're running a tournament and you're looking to kind of add some variability to what you're running, perhaps this would be useful. It does seem to be well thought out and pretty robust. It's a point-based system where you purchase units, and there's some dice rolling that goes along for choosing what maps and what kind of objectives you would have for a scenario. But with so much gameplay in the box itself, I'm not quite sure that it makes a lot of sense as far as a separate purchase goes. And then the X maps are kind of a second ancillary product that you can purchase for Heroes of Normandy and really for all the Lock and Load Tactical line games. And as I suggested at the very beginning, these are larger maps. I forget the exact, how much percent bigger they are, but they're strikingly larger. And I think if you were to, just kind of consider them on the surface, you would think that these would be a wise purchase. The in-box maps are pretty small, and it doesn't hurt to have more space. I have to say, I think after using them for a little bit, I'm not quite sure how well the product was thought out. I guess first of all, I would say that if you're going to have another size of maps, why not just include them in the box? Pick one size and go with that. It feels unfortunate that they decide to charge for what amounts to a duplicate of content that you already have in the box. If you want larger maps, print them out, put them in the box, and sell it that way. I don't know why it needs to be a separate product. And then the other thing I'd point out is that even though the hexes are bigger, they really still don't hold the in-box counters all that well. I mean, I've got kind of an example out here of what 4 stacks would look like in the larger hexes, and you'll see that they overlap into the neighboring hexes. So they don't really quite hold 4 stacks well, and as such, they don't really hold 3 stacks all that much better. There's still a little bit of overlap. So in my experience, all you can really do is get, if you want to be fully in the hex, which I don't know, seems to make sense, you can really only get two stacks of counters in there. So, and I don't know how much better that is, especially for a separate purchase. So it's a little bit curious. I think they could have gone with and should have gone with a larger size, or avoided the product altogether. But I'm sure there was a good reason for doing that. So that's my take on the Lock and Load tactical game, Heroes of Normandy. Again, I recommend it for purchase if you're in the line for a tactical game. I think you'll find this game very engaging, fast playing. There's a lot of variety in terms of units and gameplay mechanics. The scenarios are quite varied themselves in terms of the historical nature of them and the way that they play out and some of the gameplay mechanics that go along with it. So I do recommend it for purchase. And while I did spend quite a bit of time on some of the negatives that I found with the game, I kind of put those out there more as just buyer beware rather than anything that is necessarily fatal and would avoid me recommending this game for purchase. So please give it your consideration. There's a lot of Lock and Load tactical product coming out soon, and I hope you jump in and perhaps we can play one day. Thanks for watching.